Hi fans of high quality entertainment. Thank you for the comments and the likes and everything for my previous video where I just talk about the first time I listened to some of the bands and artists that I have in my CD collection. And I left off at L. A couple I kind of skipped over is Black Sabbath. I remember the very first time I heard Black Sabbath was the album Paranoid, and I think it was the song Paranoid. At a friend's house, his brother was playing the vinyl record, and I heard it. I saw the album too, and it was like, I like that. It's different, and it's kind of evil. Anyway, I just wanted to mention, I just received this package. I have no idea, and it's from a good friend of mine. I won't mention the name. Well, the first name is Dolans. You might see some comments by someone named Dolans. No, it's not Mickey Dolans. So I have no idea what it is. And then we'll get to my CD collection. Just be patient, okay? Oh my God, you're kidding me. It's a black bag. I've always wanted one of those. I don't know what it is. I should open it. By the way, my girlfriend Molly's coming over to visit for the weekend for 3 days. And she'll be here in like 2 or 3 hours, and maybe she'll appear in a video. Wouldn't you like that? Maybe she'll appear in the video instead of me. Wait, there's a letter, but I won't read it. But no, let's see what. Ooh, I've never seen this. I will watch that for sure. Oh my God, I think it's another t-shirt. She was the one that gave me that Awesome Yes t-shirt. Oh my God! Oh my God, unbelievable. Look at this. Oh my God. I've never heard of the band Relayer though. Are they any good? This is, with the Tales from Topographic Oceans t-shirt, which, if you haven't seen it, it's too late. It's hanging up in my closet. But look at that, it's double-sided. That is just incredibly awesome. Thank you so much. Wow, I never knew. Wow. Just trying to think if there's anyone else. I probably did skip a few artists. Yeah, we'll go on to M. The Monkees. Please don't laugh. I watched the TV show like a lot of people did back in the 60s, and I really loved it. It was like, oh my God, another Beatles. That's the way I felt. And their first album, I received it as a birthday present. And, at the time, I didn't know that they never even played on the album. And, for a short time period, they were almost comparable to the Beatles. I was a pretty big fan, but then kind of lost interest. But that being said, I absolutely love the Monkees, and they did end up playing on some, like Headquarters, they played on the whole album. They have talent. Maybe you can say they weren't a real band, that's fine. I disagree though, but you can't deny they had talent. Thank you. I'll try and calm down now. Motorhead. I just remember seeing Ace of Spades on TV. We have it was comparable to MTV here in Canada, Much Music. And I remember seeing Ace of Spades, and I didn't like it. It was like just too heavy for me. And Lemmy, who I didn't even know was his name at the time, you know, with his microphone, the way he had it placed and all that. Like, yeah, he had it high up. It was just kind of weird or whatever. But of course, I grew to love Motorhead. It's the only album I have. It's the only album I need. But that being said, I've heard other albums on Spotify, and I love Motorhead. Neil Young. I think it was Everyone Knows This Is Nowhere, the album. And then I remember my brother buying After the Gold Rush, and he was really into Neil Young more than I was, but I still liked him. And through the years I've bought a lot of vinyl records, and of course I've got CDs of Neil Young. He's one of the greats. For you Canadians out there, the Northern Pikes. This was the first vinyl album of theirs I bought with their big hit, She Ain't Pretty. And what's cool is, you know, my first wife Nancy, when she was sick and all that, we grew to become kind of friends of the Northern Pikes. And they were just sweet guys. We went out to dinner with them, free concert, and so at the end of Nancy's life, like, she even received a phone call from one of them. And so these guys, and definitely they're one of my favorite Canadian bands, not just this album. I have all their albums. I'm even credited on one of their later albums. I think it's this one. Truest Inspiration. You don't believe me, do you? You just don't believe me. Look, that's me. Thank you. Yes. Yes. The Patti Smith group. The first, I never got into horses. Even today, I haven't taken the time to really appreciate it. But it's supposedly her best album. But I bought this on vinyl, and I did enjoy it. Not all of it. Some of it was a little like Radio Ethiopia. It's a really experimental track, which I didn't really care for. But some of the songs, like Ask the Angels, Distant Fingers, one of my favorite Patti Smith tracks. And I also got Easter and Wave. And Easter is my favorite Patti Smith album that I know of. And especially the song Easter, I absolutely love. Whew. Time for a little break. This video is just packed with so much entertainment. Just need to calm everybody down. You ready? Let's do this more. Paul McCartney. I've heard of him. Yeah, I remember his first, well, Another Day was the first solo thing that came out that I heard by Paul McCartney, and I was really impressed with it. I loved the song. And even more the B-side, Oh Woman, Oh Why. Yeah, that's it. And his first solo album, McCartney, I was kind of, like a lot of Beatles fans, kind of disappointed in it. A lot of, it certainly wasn't Abbey Road, was it? But now, you know, you look back and you listen to it, the remastered version, it's like, he was so ahead of his time in some ways, making like a home recording and just, you know, kind of simple album and all that in some ways, and all of the instruments himself. So I love it now, I do. Paul Simon, of course, Simon and Garfunkel. I loved Bridge Over Troubled Water and Bookends, those two albums. And his solo career, my brother bought his first solo album, Paul Simon, and I did like it, but I wasn't a huge fan. But over time, I've really grown to love Paul Simon, although I must say in the last year or so, reading up about what a jerk he is in some ways, it has kind of turned me off of him in some ways. Pink Floyd. Yeah, my brother Bob, I have two brothers, Bob and Don. And Bob would always let me listen to his albums, and he had the Pink Floyd. He had Pink Floyd's Metal, and I sort of liked it. I didn't like Echoes though. I thought it was boring. You know, this is back before I was even a teenager. It'd be 58, 69. I'd be a teenager, 13, maybe 14. But overall, I thought it was good. And then, of course, later on, The Dark Side of the Moon, I bought that, and I love Pink Floyd. Randy Newman. I bought on vinyl. It's when Short People became a huge hit. And I'm tall, so I love that song. And so I bought Little Criminals, trying to think of the name of it. Little Criminals, and I loved it. I still love it to this day. And then I bought his first album, Randy Newman. Love it. And so all of his early albums I absolutely love. Then I kind of lost interest in him, just like Elvis Costello and other solo artists. Ah, yes, Ramones. I bought this on vinyl the day, I think it was, or the week it came out. And I had no idea what it would sound like. I'd read magazines, you know, punk rock and whatever. So I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I read that all the songs were really short and fast-paced, and it was like, that sounds cool. And so, of course, I love this album. It's still my favorite Ramones album. I'm gonna burp. Excuse me, that was a loud burp. Good old Ringo. I'd always wanted to hear his first two albums. I remember seeing his second, the country album, is it B Copes of Blues or whatever it is. And I never did hear it until more recently, and it's pretty good. It's pretty damn good, actually. But this was the first album of his that I bought, and I absolutely loved it. Rush. This is all I have by Rush at the moment. But I bought Fly By Night in 1974 on vinyl. No, on CD. In 1974. And it was pretty soon after its release, so you know, that's one thing I'll say about my teenage years. I was pretty open to things, even back then, thanks, I think, to the Beatles. And, you know, my friends in the 70s and 80s, they were more basic, Boston, AC/DC, not that there's anything wrong with that. But I was more open to, like, Frank Zappa and weirder music, too. And so, Rush, they're absolutely one of the greatest bands of all time. That doesn't mean I want to listen to all their CDs though, but this greatest hits double, that'll do me. Time for another break yet? No? Okay. The Rolling Stones. In the 60s, you know, I heard I Can't Get No Satisfaction on the radio and other songs. I really liked Ruby Tuesday, but they just weren't comparable to the Beatles for me. And it was when a friend of ours gave I forget how it all happened, but she ended up giving me this on vinyl. And at first I wasn't, it's like the Rolling Stones. But I started playing it and I grew to absolutely love it. And that's why I recently bought this again, even though I have probably all of these songs and other CDs. But it's just a reminder of this. And 2000 Light Years from Home is my absolute favorite Rolling Stones song. But I became, I guess, you know, not a big fan, but definitely a fan of the Rolling Stones. And even today, they have these live video releases, and they recently did the whole Sticky Fingers album. I've seen it online, a couple of songs like Moonlight Mile. And Mick Jagger, I mean, good for them. I mean, they still sound pretty damn good. Although it took 10 minutes or so to have them wheel Mick Jagger onto the stage. Now, I don't have any Queen CDs at the moment, but I remember my brother buying the very first Queen album, and I really liked it. It was kind of like a Led Zeppelin kind of feeling with them. Queen 2, I mean side 2 is pretty damn good, but side 1, even today, I don't really care for side 1. Maybe I need to listen to it again. And then I bought Sheer Heart Attack on vinyl, and I absolutely love that. So I bought CDs. My favorite is Innuendo, but Queen is definitely one of the greats. And someday I'll have all of their CDs again, or most of them. Ah, Pearl Jam. A lot of Pearl Jam, well, a lot of music fans think their debut album is their best. I never got into it. I still don't care for the song Jeremy. It just doesn't connect with me. But I believe this is the first Pearl Jam. No, it isn't. It's Versus. No, it isn't. It's Vitality. There's a few albums in there where I bought every one of their albums, and I think it was Vitality, if that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if I mispronounce things. I'm not perfect. And I love that album, and I still do. And this is probably my favorite, though. And, yeah, that's Pearl Jam. Radiohead. I think it was after seeing the video Just on Much Music. One of my favorite songs. And so I bought the Bends, and I absolutely loved it, for the most part, most of it. And I just like the earlier Radiohead, the more guitar-oriented albums. A lot of you probably won't know who this band is, but you should get to know them. And this was this was in a cutout bin, of course, probably for $2 or $3. And I absolutely loved it. The sensational Alex Harvey Band, The Impossible Dream. And then I bought Tomorrow Belongs to Me and their live album, and I think that was about it. And then it was just hard back in the day to get their later releases, but I definitely love the sensational Alex Harvey Band. They're called sensational for a reason. Sly and the Family Stone. I think it was my brother that had bought their greatest hits album with Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself and Everyday People, all those great songs. And so I've got this 2 CD collection. It's all I need, but it's just awesome. Sly and the Family Stone. I forgot to mention I have James Brown too. I don't know why I did that. Sparks. You've heard me talk about them enough. I'm not going to mention them. I will, I'm just joking. I saw Sparks on, I think it was the Midnight Special first, and it was like, what the is that? And they looked weird, and they sounded even weirder. And so the next day I rushed out to my record store and I bought Kimono My House. I hated it, I threw it in the garbage. But luckily I picked it back up and played it again, and I grew to love it. And now Sparks have been absolutely one of my favorite bands since 1974. And they're still releasing quality albums as of today. Now, Steppenwolf, I probably had heard Born to be Wild on the radio, and of course loved it, and Magic Carpet Ride. And my brother bought this vinyl record, and so this has always been my favorite Steppenwolf album. I mean, I love the songs. Don't Cry, Chicken Wolf, It's Never Too Late, Rock Me, a couple of filler tracks like Mango Juice and Sleeping Dreaming, but overall. And I have a lot of the early Steppenwolf albums. Not that you care. I like to call this band Super Cramp, but they're actually Super Tramp. And the one thing I always remember about this particular album is it sounded so much better. It was comparable to Rumors, you know, production-wise. It was just, it made anybody's crappy stereo system sound like $1 million. Just awesome production on this. And I haven't really played it that much lately, but I mean, I love it. It's a great album. And I did buy a couple others after that, but this is my favorite. Now, I might have heard 10cc's Rubber Bullets somewhere, and I bought this, and I loved it right away. I kind of got tired of it, though, pretty quickly, but it's still an awesome album. Sheet music, and you know, at the time I didn't realize the pun of sheet music, which is kind of similar to S-H-I-T music. And I mean, they even have a song in here called The Worst Band in the World. But definitely, this is another band that really produced their albums very well. Great production is what I'm trying to say. But my favorite album of theirs is How Dare You. The name of this band is Talking Heads. And I bought Talking Heads 77, probably the week it was released, and I loved it right away. But once again, it's the kind of album, it's, you know, you listen to it the first time, it's, oh, this is the greatest album in the world, and then you just get bored of it fairly quickly. But I mean, I still listen to it once in a while, and it is great. But my favorite Talking Heads album is Fear of Music. And the one thing I remember about when I bought Talking Heads 77, my one brother, talking to him on the phone, and I said they're this, I said a new wave band, and he was saying, no, they're not, they're a punk band. And that was one time I knew I was right. Punk band. Another great Canadian band, the Tragically Hip. I think I bought Fully Completely. It was the first time. And what's cool about the Tragically Hip, which is one of Canada's most famous bands, is they used to just play in clubs, even in this area in Trenton, Ontario, back in the day. And they're from Kingston, Ontario, which is about 60 miles that way. Tom Petty, I bought Damn the Torpedoes, which I loved, but I don't know, through the years I was never a big fan of his, but every song I heard of his on the radio I absolutely did love, and I absolutely do love his greatest hits. And that's not to say I won't buy some of his older albums in the future, because Tom Petty, is one of the most respected, one of the greatest songwriters, you know, for kind of commercial-based rock. And there's nothing wrong with commercial-based rock if your heart is really into it. But I love him. I was a big, well, I still am, fan of the Tubes. I bought their debut album when it came out, White Punks on Dope. Love it. And I bought, then they started to get too commercial after a few albums, and I lost interest. Another great band from Ireland, the Undertones. This is a later album of theirs. I think I bought their debut album, and I really liked it. I love Virgil Sharkey's vocals, so I have all of their albums. Now, I think the ones with Virgil Sharkey. I had never heard this band until I bought the album, and I bought Uriah Heep's The Magician's Birthday, and for a while I was as big a fan of Uriah Heep as the Beatles or Sparks or whoever. But it only lasted for this album, and then I bought their previous album, Demons and Wizards, which I loved even more. It's my favorite. And I bought a few more after that, Wonder World and whatever, and the songs just weren't as good. Now, even though I was a fan of Lou Reed's, I had heard that the Velvet Underground, you know, I had heard from other people, oh, they suck, or oh, this album is terrible. I remember the owner of a record store hearing this and saying it's awful. And so when I first bought it on vinyl, I didn't like it. It was like the production sounded really bad, but I mean, this is now one of my all-time favorite albums. So my advice to the younger people out there is, if you listen to something and you don't like it, try listening to it again, at least, you know, sometime in the future. The Who. I'd heard, you know, My Generation and maybe some of their other songs on the radio, and I liked them. The first album of theirs I heard was when my brother Bob bought this classic, and I absolutely loved it. And so I've been a pretty big Who fan over the years. I mean, just with Keith Moon, though. Once Keith Moon passed away, it was like, I'm done. A band I don't talk about too much, but I've got a playlist on my Spotify account if you want to check it out. Just in case I don't have the link below, I probably won't. It's Larry Graves on Spotify. Wire. Absolutely love Wire and their first 3 albums. Pink Flag was my first, their debut album. The band Yes, my other brother Don, I remember he bought Fragile, and of course I heard it when he was playing it, because I couldn't touch his records. Not that I'm bitter. But he was a big fan of theirs. He even saw them in concert and all that. But it wasn't until through the years I've always loved some of the early Yes albums, but in the last year I've become kind of obsessed with them, and their first few albums with John Anderson are absolutely way up there at the top of my all-time favorite albums. Not that you care. Okay, ZZ Top. I love all of the early ZZ Top, and the first one I bought was, I'm trying to remember the name of it. That's it. I can't even pronounce it right. Fandango, which I really liked. I mean, I didn't love it, but I really liked it. And of course, Eliminator. After Eliminator, I was a huge fan. And so I have their box set of all of their albums. They're one of the greats. And I'll end this with the last band that would probably ever be in Z, besides ZZ Top, the Zombies. I bought this a few years back, and there was a point, for a few months, I played this a lot, and I haven't played it that much in the past few years. So I need to play it again, but it is definitely a classic. That's it. Go. Have a great day.